Hi, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Mimi On, and I run HubSpot Research. And for today's webinar, I'm going to be talking through some of the more interesting data points that we have collected over the last year. I can't believe it's the end of 2017 already. A quick disclaimer, I am battling a little bit of a cough. So I have some cough drops. If I do cough, I apologize. I'm going to try to suppress it as best as I can. Hope you all understand. With that said, I will be sharing predominantly slides. We're going to have a lot of charts. So you're not going to see my face for much longer. We will have some time, hopefully, for Q&A. So please feel free to add your questions. And if we have time, we'll definitely get to it. So with all that kind of noted, let's go back to sharing the slides. I'm trying to figure it out. Hold on a second. Screen share. All right, if you guys cannot see the slides, please let us know in the comments and we'll make sure to address it. But if you can, we're gonna get started. So we have a really brief agenda. We're gonna talk about some of the more interesting marketing and sales trend data that we've got. The bulk of this presentation is actually gonna talk about content trends because marketers care about what content people want, right? And then we're gonna end with some search trends data that we've uncovered through this year. So first, let's start with just general marketing and sales trends. This data is from our State of Inbound report. We run it every single year. Excuse me. And we ask a general question in our survey to marketers, and we ask them point blank, do you actually believe in your marketing strategy? Do you consider it to be effective or not effective? And then we took that data point. About, I think, 2/3 of the marketers who answered our survey agreed that their marketing strategy was effective, which is actually not great. That means 1/3 of our respondents have no faith in their marketing strategy. That's a problem. But what we found was that we had a follow-up question that we asked about the marketing and sales relationship, if there was an SLA in place, or if they were kind of generally aligned, or if they felt like they were not aligned at all. And what we found was that those who had a very strong sales and marketing relationship, an SLA, in fact, were more likely to say, okay, I believe in our marketing strategy. I think it is effective. To us, that points to the fact that if you have a strong relationship between marketing and sales, you probably know what your goals are, right? You probably know what you're after. You probably know that you've got sales teams who are actually going to follow up on the leads that you produce. And in turn, you're going to be more, I think, in line with what you think your strategy is and should be. And if you're misaligned, then you probably don't know why you're doing the things that you do. You don't see the follow through, and you're less likely to believe in your strategy, right? So if you're a marketing leader, if you're a manager, and you're trying to figure out how you can kind of round up the troops and get people more enthusiastic about the things that they're doing, having an SLA, having a good relationship with sales or marketing and vice versa is probably really a good bet in making sure that your frontline staff believe in what you're doing. To kind of follow it along with that point of view, we also asked, hey, what do you think is the top source of leads in your organization? Is it from referrals, right, from other customers? Is it leads from marketing? Or is it leads sourced by sales? And what we found, again, when we cut this data by the SLA question, is that those organizations who are tightly aligned, the salespeople said it's the leads from marketing, right? Those are our top source of leads because there's an SLA in place and there's been an agreement on what marketing should produce and what sales will do as a follow-up. The less aligned you are, you'll see the less kind of impact marketing has on that whole, excuse me, the lead generation piece. So again, it just points to us saying, if you have a tight relationship between these two organizations, they're going to work together better, and you're going to get better results, and you'll have happy marketers and happy salespeople. Another interesting kind of data point popped up, and it's it makes a lot of sense, I think. If anyone who's had a job, who's dealt with senior staff, who's been on the front line, I think a lot of folks can relate to this data, and let me explain what this is. We asked questions again about SLAs. But this time we cut the data by seniority. And what we found is that senior executives, the CEO, the CMO, et cetera, have a different perception of their organization compared to someone on the front line, an individual contributor, right? Now, there's no right or wrong way to say the CEO is right or the individual contributor is right. We don't know what the correct answer is. You'll see in this particular slide, the C-level executives are way more, I think, positive about the relationship between sales and marketing, right? A lot more of them say, we're tightly aligned, we have an SLA, we're pretty well aligned, things are going great. On the front lines, right, that people who are actually probably working to generate leads or follow up with leads, they feel a little bit differently. They're not quite as enthusiastic. And again, this data is not to say the ICs are wrong or the C-levels are wrong. This is just to point out there's a disconnect. There's a difference in what people, right, depending on their seniority, feel is happening in the organization. And when there's that disconnect, things kind of break down in terms of efficiency. This is not such a pronounced difference, although I would say 17% of ICs saying that there's an SLA versus 31%. It's not a great kind of number in terms of a difference, right? If there is an SLA, everyone should be aware of it, especially the ones who are building the pipeline. So what we found is that when there's that disconnect, it probably means things aren't running as well as it could be. And what we advocate for, and it's very hard to do, is for transparency and communication. Somewhere along the lines, the message is being, I guess, not shared properly, either up to senior executives when we say, hey, something is broken and we're not being as efficient as we could be, or going down to the IC with C-level saying, oh, we've agreed on an SLA, you guys should be executing on it. To kind of, again, follow up with that, this is the same kind of cut where we said, hey, what's your top source of leads, right? The C-levels are saying, oh, referrals. The bulk of our business is because of referrals, because our customers love us so much, which ideally is great. But if you, again, look at what the IC is saying, actually, the IC say, well, I think our sales team is actually sourcing the most leads. Again, we don't know which group is really right. That's not the point. The point is there's a difference in perception in the organization. And what needs to happen, again, is better communication, better, I think, discussion of what goals are, of truly what the metrics that matter. And if the CEO, right, is going around saying referrals are a big source of business, somebody down the line needs to correct them. Or if the IC thinks that sales leads are actually the biggest source of leads, and the C-level knows better, there needs to be a communication down that line too, to at least so that everyone's on the same page. This is probably one of the hardest things to do in any size organization, is having clear communication, building that kind of trust. It takes a lot of time and effort, something that we are also working on here at HubSpot. So it's not something that like we want to point out and say this is horrible, and if your organization, if this rings true for you, your organization is bad. No, this is definitely a very common thing, and we just wanted to point it out because it's so important, it's so vital for everyone in the business to be on the same page, right? Because if you have the same goals and you're aligned in what reality is, the clearer it is for what you need to do next, right, to reach those goals. The other big disconnect is how much time people are spending using technologies. This is a topic near and dear to our hearts because we're a SaaS business and we have a ton of tools in our arsenal. We use a ton in our own marketing team. So we kind of feel this data really, really strongly. If you look on the individual contributor side, a lot of folks, almost half, are saying, I'm spending like 30, an hour or more a day just like dealing with stuff in my technology, whether it's figuring out my passwords or logging in or sharing our logins. I know it's a reality, people do it, or just figuring out how to get my data set from this one reporting tool into the next tool, and then consolidating everything and just analyzing it. Just managing all these tools is taking up a lot of time. If you go back up to the C-levels, they have a much more rosy picture of what reality is. And I'm inclined to think that IC probably knows best in this particular slide. It's probably rare that the C-levels are grappling with and dealing with all the tools that an IC in marketing or sales is dealing with, right, on the day-to-day basis. What this says to me is there's a lot of lost efficiency here. If truly ICs and managers are spending up to an hour or more a day, a third of them, just dealing with all the technologies that they use, that's such a waste of time. And there can be better, in this day and age, better ways to use technology to make you more efficient instead of less efficient, really. In fact, a lot of us are losing real time dealing with multiple technologies. In a different survey, and there's a link to the study, we found that 82% of salespeople and marketers are losing up to an hour a day just managing tools, not dealing with like reporting and analytics, but just trying to figure out step by step, going from, let's say a Canva to a analytics tool to a sales recording tool to whatever. It's got to a point where the technologies that we use to make us more efficient, it technically is helping us get our tasks done faster, but because they don't talk to each other, it's actually making us waste time in a different way, which is really unfortunate. And so if you're a marketing leader or a sales leader, I think it's really important for you to take a good look at every single technology your staff uses and figure out like where there's redundancies, right? Or where's there places where one tool could maybe do the things that 3 tools are currently doing. And that might save you not just time, but also money. So these are some section takeaways. It basically sums up what I've been saying through the slides. This is basically here for when later on, when you come back to the slide deck, you can take a look at what I think is important. But again, sales and marketing alignment is really, really important to having confidence in your strategy. All organizations can improve communication and transparency. And so bridging that gap is so hard, but it will improve efficiency and morale in your staff. And then finally, leaders should review your technology stack and develop a tech strategy if you don't have one, and ID technologies that you know to be redundant, that do the same thing, but because they have this one extra feature, maybe people are using it. I think it's up to you to decide as a leader, is that one feature worth the headache and the time of reconciling different reports, different user IDs, all that kind of stuff? Is it really, really worth it? All right, now we're moving on to content trends, and I'm going to go very quickly through this because there's a lot of slides, but this is a super interesting study that we recently published, and all these slides have links to the report, so when you want to dig in a little bit deeper, feel free to actually visit our website, research.hubspot.com. All of our content is free, it's ungated, you don't have to give us any information, it's all there to help you be more efficient, right, as marketers and salespeople. So to set up the story here, we asked over 3,000 consumers across the world a couple of questions on what kind of content they seek out online. And to set it up, we first asked folks, what are you using more to browse the internet? Is your phone, is your laptop, or a tablet? And what we're finding is that the younger you are, the more likely you are to be mobile first. And this is really important and actually feeds into why the data in the following slides looks the way it does. A mobile first person is going to be consuming a really different type of content than those who are on their laptop, right? There's going to be a lot more image-based stuff, video stuff, social media kind of posts that are short and snappy. That's going to be the most attractive to someone who's on their phone all the time versus someone who may be on their laptop and can actually read really in-depth articles, which is what I produce. So this slide basically sets up the younger they are, the millennials, they're going to be on their phone, and their preferences on what they will seek is probably going to impact the way you create content in the future. So I just like this slide and I think it's funny, so I'm adding it here. I won't put too much time into it, but we all are addicted to our phones, and that is a problem because a lot of folks are using their phones right before they go to sleep, right after they wake up. I know I'm definitely guilty of that. Just as a life balance thing, it's not great. But we're so addicted that a majority of folks are also saying that they use their phones, they bring it in their bathrooms. And the younger you are, the more likely you are to admit it. And I know that number is actually higher overall. There's a little bit of an embarrassment factor, which I totally understand. But the millennials, again, they're like, this is normal behavior and I have no problem admitting it. I take my phone into the bathroom with me. The squat and surf, all that kind of stuff. It's just something where we're completely, I think, addicted to your phone. And why are you using it for your phone? The content that it takes you to, right? So let's actually go into the content. So this is one of a really popular slide. We did it last year, and this is a refresh. As marketers, we're always curious about what type of content people are actually really paying attention to versus skimming. And what we're finding is that given today's, the status of today's politics, whatever your politics are, news articles are going to be very, very high. But this time, videos, even like slightly edges at videos, as in what are people really, really paying attention to. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. You have to watch a video to actually consume it. Whereas if you look at a podcast, which is the very bottom, online long form content, so really, really long articles, which is what I produce, blog articles, that's really skimmable. And with podcasts especially, they're kind of designed for you to listen to while you're doing something else. Whereas with a video, you have to pay attention. With news articles, obviously, it's probably something of interest to you, so you're reading it thoroughly. Multimedia articles, those are long form content with like videos embedded or some other type of interactive play in it. Those are probably more engaging, and as a result, people are consuming it more thoroughly. So we think that's really interesting because videos has bubbled to the top, and video is going to be a pretty consistent story through the next few slides. So in general, what kind of content do people want to see more of in the future? Videos. As marketers, I think you all know about this pivot to video, and you probably have two feelings. You're totally into it or you totally hate it. Our data is telling us that consumers today want more video, that this pivot to video is not a blip. People are still trying to figure out how to make it successful. That is true, but it's really, really clear among our consumers that video content is what they're interested in seeing more of. When we cut this data by age, and sorry for this eye chart, it's just gigantic. So that previous chart, but cut by age, you can see that the younger they are, the consumers are, the more strongly they prefer video. And further down with social media posts and social photos, younger consumers want more social content as well. That ties back to the fact that they're probably on their phone more than on a laptop. If you go to the other side, my right side of the graph, you'll see that older consumers prefer the tried and true email content. That's the bread and butter of most marketers right now still. And there's still an audience for it. But look how low that number is for younger consumers. As these people grow up, right, get better jobs, make more money, start making these purchasing decisions, it's really unlikely that preference will all of a sudden flip. Because if you think about it, if you think about someone on your mobile phone or just your mobile phone in general, right, you're getting tons and tons of notifications. Stuff that's happening in the news, social media posts from your friends and family, you're looking up like articles on your own, you're getting email alerts, you're getting text messages. The email alerts, on top of all the alerts that you're getting, right, with news and social and your friends here and your friends are eating this and this is what's happening, that email alert is like lowest in the totem pole, right? No one cares about that email alert from some random company. And people are not paying attention to it, at least on their phones. And so I think that behavior and that general kind of just all that stuff coming to people on their phones, email is just not going to be a factor in the future. I'm not saying that right now everyone abandon email, because as you see, older consumers who are still here and buying stuff still want it. But if you are thinking about strategy in the future, considering video is really, really important. Obviously, continuing to invest in social and eventually thinking about what would happen to your business if email was not as much of a factor as it is now. Those are good things to think about. Those are good strategies to come up with now, so that in the future you're not caught, off guard. Those previous slides were basically about general content. So we include like news, right, in the content list. Now we're moving to brands, and that preference that we saw earlier with general content is even more pronounced here. So overall, what kind of content do people want to see from a brand or business? Video again, followed by emails, right, and then social videos, social images, blog articles. At the very bottom is the PDF. When we cut it again by age, as we've done it in the previous question, we see a very consistent preference for video across age groups. So this is, again, not a blip. Everyone wants to see more of it. And then, again, a huge difference in what people want versus email and social. So again, we see that consistent data. The younger consumers today don't care about emails whatsoever. The older folks who might be used to receiving email newsletters or emails from businesses, they won't continue wanting it. With social stuff, social images, social videos, it's a flip, right? Where younger folks are way more interested in seeing branded content online on social media, less so with the older folks. And it's just different preferences, right? Based on the ways that they like to browse. I think the net for this data is for marketers, unfortunately, you got to be dabbling in everything, right, to reach your audience. If, however, your business is targeting maybe older folks for whatever reason, then you can say, okay, I can rest knowing that what our current strategy probably still makes sense, and you can prepare, and you have longer time to prepare for differences or changes in the way people want to consume content. But if your business is targeting a millennial audience right now, you're going to probably have to move faster to do these changes. Pursue video, figure out a good strategy for it, make sure you're doubling down on social, and start moving away from email. There's blogs still, and there's PDF content. There's still interest in it. It's just not as trendy. It's not as hot as, let's say, video and social, but it doesn't mean that you should abandon it completely, especially as you are trying to build your brand, right? This is stuff that you should still be investing in, but maybe not quite as much as you have in the future. Finally, okay, so I've been talking a lot about video and social, and you might be like, okay, I give up. I guess I'll just stop doing everything and just turn to video. That's not 100% the case, because while people want video content from brands, they're still really interested in using your website to get more information. That is still crucial, that is still pivotal, and it's something you should definitely be watching and making sure you're building it so that when someone comes to your site, they're getting all the information that they need. And whether that means stacking it with videos so that they learn more about your brand, about what you're offering, or pointing them to your social content or something else, you definitely cannot forget about your website, because it's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. When we, again, cut this data by age just to see, like, maybe there's a difference in preferences, no, it's very consistent. Everyone will be going to your website if they want to learn more about you. So make sure that it's fully stacked with all the information that you need. Make sure you have your personas ready so that the pages that you create for them will resonate and will actually give them the messaging and the information that they need. You'll see slight echoes in the previous data when it comes for emails and then liking on social media and watching videos. It's fairly consistent, again, with the previous data, which we love, because consistent data means that there's actually a trend and it's not just a blip. But overall, I think this data has been super interesting to us, and we've had a lot of good feedback on what we put out there, and hopefully it's helpful for you guys as you think about your futures with your marketing strategy. Finally, as I've been saying, you can't abandon your website. There's a lot of interest in actually interacting more with a company on their website. So we're talking about chatbots, and they can be something where, like, there's actually a person right behind the bot typing and interacting with people, or it can be an automated artificial intelligence chatbot where you have a couple like pre-canned answers that when people ask, information, it'll pull it up without having a human needed to actually answer the question. So quite a few people are interested in using a chatbot to get information, right? Instead of navigating to, let's say, the page with the phone number of a salesperson, they can just chat and say, hey, what's the phone number of a salesperson? And the bot will actually deliver it to it. It's just an easier experience, honestly. So quite a few are totally into that idea because it just makes their visit more efficient to your website. Quite a few actually could even buy from a chatbot. So we like to say that your website, right, is your 24/7 marketer. It's always on, it's always helping, it's getting out your messaging. Well, your website could also be a salesperson for you beyond like the traditional e-commerce store by using a chatbot where people can say, I want to learn more about product X. The chatbot can say, here's all the details, and then the person could actually initiate a buy through the bot. There is technology available today that allows for that, so that's something to consider as you think about how you can make your website more robust. On top of that, because chatbots are basically natural language processing programs, and if you want to know what NLP is, basically think of a Siri or Alexa, right, where you can talk to it and it talks back, it understands a question or a query and can come back to you with some answers. You can even use your bot on top of a sales person as also a customer service rep, right? So if someone is having a problem or has a question, wants to know more about the features of a product that they already have, you can also use that bot, right, to answer those questions. And it's a lot cheaper than having a live person on a phone answering any phone call questions or having an email ticket system. It might be a little bit more efficient. So when we asked consumers, hey, would you be open to any of these things for service? Phone is still really popular, email is popular, but live chat is like surprisingly high for based on our data, because a lot of companies aren't offering live chat just yet, but there's definite interest. So again, if you want to make your website a little bit more robust, make it do a little bit more, consider actually implementing a chatbot, because there's a lot of different use cases that you could use with a chatbot. All right, so there's a lot of information here. I'm going to, again, speed through the takeaways. You guys can refer to this as you look through this deck in the future, but mobile-first users are favoring shorter image and video-based content. That preference, as they grow up, will bleed into how companies market to them, right? They're not going to just all of a sudden change the way they like to do things because they got older. They're probably going to keep up those preferences. And so you as marketers, you as business strategists should be prepared for that. Video is consistently a favorite across all age groups. I'm sorry if you guys hate the whole pivot to video. It seems like it's here to stay. We're still all trying to figure out how to make it work, but it's not going away. Younger respondents are favoring social media content. They don't want emails, whereas older respondents do like emails and what we would consider traditional content. Think about who you're targeting. Think about your personas. Make that call on what you should be doubling down on, what you can continue to work on. The net is, don't stop doing what you're doing. You're just going to have to, unfortunately, do everything. But marketers are probably used to that right now. But as you think about who you're trying to target, you may want to shift resources accordingly. Video content is trendy. It should be considered in your content plans, but the website is still super important. It's tried and true. It's a resource. It'll always be a resource. Do not forget it. And then lastly, if you're going to double down on your website, it can be your marketer, a salesperson, and a customer support rep if you use chatbots. All right, the last section is on search trends. And this has been super interesting because for any SEOs out there, search is moving a mile a minute. And it's really, really interesting to some of the things we've uncovered. So the first piece is kind of SEO related, right? Google still dominates. That's where people are using to get information. But look at Facebook. Facebook is number 2 by a really close margin. And that's a huge headache for SEOs because you're dealing with this feed that's totally different from what Google is doing. And the content that you have to put on Facebook is totally different, right, from what you would put up on a search engine. You should be aware that more and more people are discovering stuff through Facebook. And if you want to play, you're gonna in that space, you're not just gonna have to rank in Google or Bing. You need to figure out how to rank or get an audience in Facebook as well. So unfortunately, more stuff for you all to do on the marketing side. When we cut it by age, it becomes even more pronounced. The younger you are, in fact, the younger millennials, 18 to 24, they're using, 25 to 34, they're using Facebook more to get information than Google. So there's a strong preference for discovery on social versus discovery on a search engine, which is just a huge headache. And I'm sorry, you guys, I don't even know how to even begin building out that plan to getting content on Facebook and making it discoverable in the same way as Google. I've been calling it basically as a new search engine. Facebook is a new search engine and its algorithm is super tricky. And we're gonna have to all figure it out together to see how we can get kind of a play on that. It's not gonna go away. I think Facebook is becoming more and more dominant. And so we're just gonna have to figure it out together. And hopefully in the next year, when I do another roundup, we'll have some more information for you on that front. This last slide on the content side is more on the consumer side, is more about like the research process. And I I like to pull this out because, one, social media is now a discovery tool as well, as you saw with Facebook. Facebook's part of social media. But I also want to point out that 10 years ago, social media was like barely a thing. So Facebook was just like for you to, look at photos of your friends and like make plans and whatever. And now it's like this juggernaut. It's a media company. And I wanted to just call that out because 10 years ago, marketers weren't even dealing with social media. Right now we are, but in 10 years time, who knows what new channels we're going to be dealing with. I think with marketing especially, we're all used to a lot of constant change. So the stuff that I pointed out in the previous slides about like video and all that stuff, it is super important. And if you're feeling apprehensive about it, just remember that in 10 years time, it could be totally different. It's just something that we're always going to have to deal with. So the best thing you can do is adapt, right, with the times. Social media is part of it. Video is part of it. And again, in 10 years time, who knows? Who knows what'll be out there? All right, so some more actual SEO related things. So this is from a report that outlines what topic clusters are. At HubSpot, we are actually pushing towards topic clusters, and it's more of a concept rather than data back thing. I would highly recommend checking out the report because it gives a lot more detail than what I'm going to do in this, like the 2 minutes I have for this slide. But basically, this is the old view of our HubSpot blogs. We had 3 separate blogs: marketing, agency, and sales. And we would write posts about it, right? So let's say on the marketing side, we would write about digital marketing, how X things to do to be efficient, and then digital marketing trends for the year, and then maybe another post around digital marketing, gurus that you should be following. And what would happen is that they would be their own separate kind of posts, and they were all around that same topic, and they ended up cannibalizing and competing with each other for traffic. It wasn't an efficient way for us to organize our site. And what we found was that we weren't getting as much traffic as we could have if we were more organized about it. So enter topic clusters. So we've changed the way we interlink and create our blog posts so that let's say we use the digital marketing theme again. We create a central pillar page that has a lot of content describing what digital marketing is. And then all those secondary posts around digital marketing links back to that pillar page so that when search engines crawl like that cluster of content, it'll know that they're all part of this package. And as a result, we rank higher versus before when everything was kind of competing against each other and confusing the search engines. So we've been getting a lot of good traction with this model. It's basically a way of organizing our links and the way we structure things. Definitely go check out the report if you want to get a little bit more detail in how we're doing this. But we think that this is like really the right way for us to go, especially if you have a lot of written content as we do at HubSpot. The next and our final point is a preview of a report that we're going to be publishing, I think, next week. If you guys know about featured snippets, it's on, if you search for something in Google, sometimes a answer box appears in the SERP instead of the links to whatever the answer may be. And we've been noticing over the year that HubSpot, we have a lot of very highly ranked posts. And while our rankings for a certain term has not been changing, we've seen traffic drop. So we saw a 60% drop of traffic for the term PowerPoint presentations, 38% year-over-year drop for making a chart in Excel, and 35% for best interview questions. We weren't sure why that was happening. The title of this slide might give you a little bit of a hint. What was happening is that featured snippets, because they're above position 1 in a SERP, they were actually keeping people from clicking into our top ranked link on the search engine results page, which is a headache, right? The number of featured snippets on SERPs has grown exponentially. And what's happening is that people are no longer clicking into the number 1 ranked position result. So all of our hard work is being cannibalized by these snippets. And it creates a lot of problems for us, including all of the different ways that someone can search for a question or a piece of information, right? This is from the report. If you just rephrase a certain phrase about how to cook a potato, you get 3 completely different snippets. And so there's not even a comprehensive way for us to own a snippet on a topic. And so what we found is, okay, our traffic is declining because of these. And we've come up with about 3 strategies to try to figure out how to overcome this issue. And I'm being mean and not telling you what it is on this particular presentation. I'll direct you to the report that's been written by our managing editor of our blogs, Emma Snyder, and a brother, I'm sorry, she got married and her name has changed. And she kind of lays out all of the data that we've been pouring through to get to this conclusion and where she's planning to do with the blog to combat this. So I don't know if you guys have had the same experience, if you've been noticing that blog traffic has been declining, even though your rank has not changed. We've done kind of the hard work and trying to figure out what's causing it, and our conclusion is that it's the snippets. So I'd love to hear if that's something that you've also experienced, and if you feel like that's the answer for you guys as well, let us know in the questions. We have, I think, about 10 minutes for Q&A. So I'll leave you with the session takeaways, and then I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. All right, I'm looking at the questions, and I think there aren't that many, so we can actually close. If you have any questions as a follow-up, feel free to reach out. Just as a reminder, all of the data that I've shared is available either on research.hubspot.com, that's ungated, or from the State of Inbound, which is on stateofinbound.com. We want you to use this data for your own planning. All of this content is free. Feel free to leverage it in your own presentations, to your teams, to your bosses, whatever. We're super happy to just help have a resource for you guys to use as you plan out your next